Hmm.
And a lot of times, though, even when they're in the regular ed classes, it's like hearing a recording of myself at that age. I'm stupid. I hate my learning disability, but I get that chance to be the person that goes in and tells them you're not stupid. You just have a
Yeah.
brain that's wired differently. And that puts me in such a unique position because that's something I really wish that I had at that age, is somebody to tell me those things.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. Thanks for being on the show and for your yes. I always love meeting new people, especially with the Facebook posts that I put up. I got a lot of responses, and so I've been meeting really cool people. Um, so can you tell me and the listeners a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
I'd be happy to. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband, Ron, and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. I work as a paraeducator or a teacher's aide in a public school with students who have disabilities and some who don't. I am also a writer, speaker, photographer at a blog called Michelle's Mission. And at my blog, I write about life with a learning disability. And I also feature my nature photography, and I sell some of my prints on my store. And I have a learning disability as well. I have dyscalculia, which is a math learning disability. I also have limited hand dexterity in both of my hands, and I have visual perception issues as well. And having a learning disability has really shaped the person that I have been. I can remember when I was very young, feeling really frustrated and thinking, well, what is the purpose behind this? I thought life was always going to be difficult. But little did I know that having a learning disability would be something that would not only benefit myself, but would benefit other people as well later on in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a lot, by the way. I love it. And here you are and you're showing up to
Yes.
the world. So I love that. I've recently been learning the concept of rote learning and like how our
Mhm.
education system works and how it's kind of like, and you can disagree with me, it's like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a assembly line for
Yes.
children.
Hmm.
And I'm learning and my eyes are being open to how like if the child doesn't learn the way the system wants them to learn, there's something wrong with the child and not the system. And so, what are your thoughts on that? Because this is like a huge aha. My brother has learning disabilities,
Hmm.
and he's so smart, like and he didn't do well in school, and so he was labeled like the bad kid and all that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree 100% with that. Because I can remember my elementary school years were the hardest years because it was so based on rote learning. It was
Hmm.
hard for me to be able to learn math. That was the big thing. That's always been the big factor. Reading, I could understand the rules a lot better, and but I also had a love for that too. When I
Hmm.
got into high school, it got a lot easier for me academically. My grades were really improving. I was in regular ed classes, except for math and a resource room. Now, I know when I went to college, there were some issues that came up with that being wanting to be boxed in. I can
Hmm.
remember I knew that I wanted to go to school. I did have my reservations and my fears about that. And I wasn't alone. I had a learning support teacher who did want to put me in that little category, that little box, that, oh, with your math, I don't know if you can handle college work. Why don't you go to the technical school? That's where a lot of my peers with learning disabilities ended up going. And I don't know if all of them wanted to go because they truly were interested in the program,
Yeah.
or if they just went because that was the thing that you were supposed to do. And also because I don't learn like everybody else, I've never been a great test taker. In order to get accommodations and funding for college, I had to be tested for a learning disability again. And the psychiatrist looked at my scores and said, well, based on this, you're most likely not going to go beyond community college.
Mm.
And anytime I went back to, if I wanted to go to grad school, I would put down, oh, this is the job I really want to do. And they said, well, you're not skilled to be a writer or to write news reports, because I couldn't pass what they thought was the testing that showed my potential. And yeah, so I definitely experienced a lot of those as well.
Yeah. That was like a huge like aha for me when this was explained to me, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that makes so much sense. It makes sense. Just one. Um
Yes.
um because it's like the children don't learn like everybody else. And
Mhm.
I mean, I even now have a hard time calling it a disability because it's just like you just learn differently, you know? And so they get put into this box of special ed, and so now they're in like a metaphorical box, but also in
Yes.
this one classroom that's meant for the
Mhm.
special ed kids. And it's just like, how, what does that do to the child inside their mind and emotionally and all of that, you know?
Right, exactly. I knew that it was really hard for me because I would go in, I had some classes that I couldn't go out for regular ed because I needed that. But I was also placed in some other regular ed classes, but everybody in our small conservative school district could see me going to learning support. They knew I had a disability. It stuck out like a sore thumb. And it wasn't really in a positive fashion. And that led to a lot of bullying from a young age.
Mm.
And I now, a lot of our students, they don't necessarily have learning support classes. They mainly go to regular ed, and they have, sometimes I'll be reading a test to a student, or I'll be helping to reinforce some of that information.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, though, even when they're in the regular ed classes, it's like hearing a recording of myself at that age. I'm stupid. I hate my learning disability, but I get that chance to be the person that goes in and tells them you're not stupid. You just have a
Yeah.
brain that's wired differently. And that puts me in such a unique position, because that's something I really wish that I had at that age, is somebody to tell me those things.
Yeah. And I love that. My only example is my brother, just because I watched how much he
Hmm.
struggled.
Right.
I was lucky to be able to learn in a rote learning environment.
Yes.
Um, but watching him and
Hmm.
realizing, because now he's like a tech guy and he can fix anything, you know,
Hmm.
and he's so
Yes.
smart. And so he had ADD, and he was dyslexic and dysgraphic, or
Hmm.
he had dyslexia, dysgraphia. Um, And in his adulthood, he was in the hospital for a little bit, and he discovered audiobooks. Like, he couldn't read for crap, but he discovered
Right.
audiobooks. And suddenly he's reading all
Uh-huh.
these books. He's like, dude, you should check out this book. I'm like, who are you? Just because, and then he discovered like how he can read a book. And it was just like this beautiful thing, you know?
Exactly. He found a way that he can enjoy them. I'm able to read books in print, but I love audiobooks myself. I'll be at the gym and I'm like, oh, I get to listen to a story. And sometimes
Hmm.
an audiobook slows me down because I love reading, but sometimes I just get so excited when I'm reading that I read ahead. And I can remember I always had reading comprehension issues, and everybody said, "Oh, just slow down and it'll help you." But I don't really think the slowing down necessarily helped a lot. I think it was just more of just understanding the concepts. But yeah, it totally changes when you find a way to be able to do something, and that's the key thing when you have learning disabilities, is to be able to find that way to be able to do it. It doesn't cure it, but it does help you become successful.
Yeah, I love that. So is this integrated into you said you're a parent educator. Is this integrated into that, or are you just like a general
I
parent
am
educator?
a I'm a teacher's aide, so my main job is to help assist the students and help to assist the teacher in that.
Hmm.
But I try to take that a little bit further when it comes to advocacy. And I just look for those little moments. If I see that a student is really struggling with their work or doesn't understand something, I show them how they can advocate. I will tell them, uh, how to ask for help. I remember I had a student one year that was really struggling in a class and she was too afraid to ask for help. And I got that chance to talk with her and show her, well, this is how you ask for help. And before you know it, she was not afraid to ask for help at that point. I also had a student this year. I All the kids know, do not ask me for help with math.
Hmm.
I try to inform our staff of that. But sometimes I'll be asked to be in a classroom to do some of those duties. And I was really frustrated the one day. I thought, why am I here? I obviously can't help them. No one's really listening.
Yeah.
And there was a student that all of a sudden somebody said, the student's crying. And he was really struggling in the class. And I had the chance to get on live level with him and say, I have a learning disability. I know how hard it can be to do math. I can't help you with the math, but I can get you the resources to be able to complete that. And before I knew it, he was raising his hand. And by the end of the school year, he was going up to teachers and asking for help. And he didn't need a lot of help anymore. He was doing a lot of the work independently.
That's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about your learning disorder? What is it? How do you say it?
Dyscalculia,
Dyscalculia?
yeah,
Dyscalculia. I've never heard of that. Could you tell me more about that?
sure. It is a math learning disability, and I have trouble with how numbers work. And it's just very hard for me to figure out just how they go together. I don't have great rote memory in regards to math, so that can be hard. I don't know all my addition, subtraction, or multiplication facts. I'm
Hmm.
not able to read, I'm not able to tell time on the face of a clock. And I also confuse my right from my left. So that can
Mm.
be really hard with that. It can be hard to know how much money I'm spending at the store. I'm sure it's a shock to everybody when they go to the register, but for me, it's a real surprise. But if you hand me cash, I can do a lot better than if you would give me a debit card or a credit
Mm.
card, because that's more of an abstract concept. But I can see the dollars and the
Yeah.
quarters, and I can get a range. It's not perfect. It
Hmm.
can be hard to leave a tip as well, how much I have to leave. So I have my phone with me and an app for a tip calculator.
Wow. That's so, um, I just find it fascinating how, because I'm all into human behavior and psychology and all that.
Mhm.
And I just think it's fascinating how each individual human is so different, And I just think it's just me going off on a tangent. I just think like humanity would be so much better if we just embraced our differences rather than trying to make everybody fit into the same box, you know?
Exactly. I think it would be a lot better because not everybody can do the same thing. And that's
Hmm.
actually a good thing because everybody can be able to help and work as a team. I know some situations that some staff that I work with where it's really been successful has been where I worked with somebody who was really good at math and I
Hmm.
was really good at English. But if we had that respect that, okay, I'll help the kids with English, and then the one who was really good at math helped them with math, that really worked to the benefit of our students because they were getting what they needed for reading and they were getting what they needed for English and they were also getting what they needed for math together.
Yeah.
But if I had her do the English, well, she could do it, but it would be difficult. And for me, I can't do that, but it's just that working together is so key.
Yeah. So I'm gonna like just viciously change the subject.
Okay.
I'm looking at your background and you said you're a photographer. Is that one of your
Yes.
pieces?
No, it's not. I probably
Okay.
should put a background with one of my flowers. I put this up in January when it was so dreary in Pennsylvania that I just thought, I want something that's really going to brighten this up.
Nice. So how did you get into that, into photography?
That was something that came unexpectedly. I can remember somebody saw that I had perspective. I
Mm.
took a picture at prom when I was in high school, and there was some trees in the background. And my peers asked me, well, why did you take pictures of trees? And I showed an older woman in my writing group at that time my picture, and she said, this shows perspective. And I put that aside for a number of years. I didn't really do anything with it. I didn't think I had any art skills. I knew I loved to write. And a couple years ago, we were at a family wedding in New England, and I took some pictures at a cemetery that we went to on our way home. And there was these beautiful angel statues. And I had a friend that asked me, wow, these are really good. Where did you take them at? And I explained it to her, and she said how wonderful they were. And this friend was very particular about things. She did not flatter people. And if she gave you a compliment, you did something positive. And I can remember, yep. And I entered that piece into an art show, and I think I got honorable mention. And
Nice.
that just, thank you. And that just encouraged me to take more pictures and to be able to enter them into shows and to put them on my blog. A lot of times I'm able to capture more details because I'm not able to drive. So I'll be in the car with my husband and I'll say, babe, did you see that? And he'll be like, no, I'm focused on the road. And sometimes we pull over, other times um, I might, if it's local, I get to go and walk and I get to take that picture of a flower.
Mm.
And if I drove, I would miss so many shots in my life. And it's just turned out to be a blessing that I can put on my store on my website.
I love that. It's taking a negative, so to speak, and turning it into a positive. Like, look at
Yes.
all the flowers I would not have taken pictures of if I was driving.
Mhm.
I love that. So is that why do you do any other photography or is it just nature or
I do a lot of nature. That is my main thing. I'll do flowers, and I also like to do sometimes just like different places that we visit that I might take some pictures of. But yeah, that's what my main focus is right now is nature.
I love it. And then what do I'm violently changing the
Okay.
subject again. You said you were a speaker. What
Yes.
what do you speak about learning disabilities or children,
I speak
flowers?
about, oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I was just being silly. I said, do you speak about flowers?
Well, no, I probably could. No, I speak about my story of having a learning disability because I had a lot of people who tried to limit me. And I try to speak a lot on what learning disabilities are and how to advocate. I do a lot of podcasts, but I have spoken at in-person events. I spoke at a women's empowerment breakfast before COVID and a disabilities symposium before the COVID happened. And I will have this chance in July to speak at a transition conference in person again for the first
Mm,
time after a few years. So I'm very excited
awesome.
about that as well. And I'm talking about how to have a successful transition plan and just taking that next step.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're in the world and you're sharing your story because this is the podcast of stories. I think like
Mhm.
even if your story helps one listener, then mission accomplished, right? So
Yes,
I
definitely.
appreciate everything that you're doing in the world. And I do have one last question for you, which I ask everybody at the end of
Sure.
every episode. And that is, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
The piece of advice that I would give to the world is that success doesn't always come in the package you expect, but sometimes it comes in something even better.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Steiner signing off. Until next time.